are the 7 Hermetic Principles? Hi, I'm Sandra from MysteryWitchSchool.com, and if you're new to this channel and you want to find out more about Wicca or witchcraft, or you want to become a witch or a Wiccan, hit the subscribe button below so that you don't miss anything. This video is about the 7 Hermetic Principles, and these principles you may or may not have come across, but people are starting to write more about them in their books now, and they are very relevant to a lot of the quantum research that's being done and also to the craft. So what are they? The 7 Hermetic Principles are the names given to a bunch of principles that are found in a book called the Kybalion, which was written by 3 initiates. It's related to Hermeticism, which dates back to the Corpus Hermeticum, which was some writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. And Hermeticism comes out of that school, that sort of Alexandrian school of thought. And these 7 principles are explanations for how the universe works and for how magic works as well. So I'm not going to be academic about it. I'm just going to talk about the principles in relation to magic, in relation to the craft. So principle number 1 is the universe is mental. So the all is one, the universe is mental, which means basically that the universe is consciousness. It's like a mental construct. It's consciousness creating itself. It's consciousness wanting to know itself. And from a magical point of view, that shows us that we can create by our thoughts. We can create consciously. We can consciously create our lives the way we want our lives to be. We have conscious control over creation. And we are, as part of this consciousness, co-creators with this consciousness. So it's almost like it's an explanation of, hey, everybody is here to create, and we're all here to create with that mental conscious energy. So that's one way to look at it from a very simplistic point of view. So that's the principle of mentalism. The second principle is the principle of correspondence. So you've heard the saying, as above, so below, so within, so without. So that's where everything corresponds basically to the one thing. It's all is one thing. Your state of being internally, or your state of mind, can create your perception of your outer world. So you know, for example, when you fall in love, all of a sudden everything and everyone in your life is wonderful. You see the beauty everywhere. You see all the good stuff because you're in that inner state of love. Something goes wrong, you break up. All of a sudden, everything's ugly. Nothing's good. It's all bad. That's because you're in this inner state of feeling bad. So you're projecting that onto your outer environment. Now, the outer environment hasn't changed at all. It's just that your projection has made it change, and often what you bring to you from those mental states is part of that inner projection. So that's a way of saying as within, so without. As an example of the correspondence. Now in magic, we know we also use correspondences. So if we're wanting to work with the planets, we'll attune our desire to the planetary forces that coincide with that desire. The same with the herbs that we use, gemstones that we use will often match what it is we're wanting to bring to us. So that again is about the correspondence. It's about as above, so below, so within, so without. So that's a quick way. There's a lot more to that one, but I'll leave it there. The next one is the principle of vibration, which you've no doubt heard if you are into the law of attraction at all, where we hear about raising the vibration, because everything is vibration. We know that as a scientific fact, that we are vibrating. We think we're solid structures, but we're not. We're actually vibrating structures. Everything around us is actually vibrating. It's not as physical as it's changing due to that vibration. It's not as permanent as we think it is. It's constantly changing and it's constantly vibrating. And because of that, we can match vibration to vibration in our magic. And we do that again with the correspondences. And we also do that with what is within us being projected out into the outer world through magic. And when we're doing spell work, we are going from what we're projecting inside us, inside our head, in our energy system, out into the world. We're dealing with the correspondence, so the principle of correspondence, we're dealing with the principle of vibration, and we're also dealing with the principle of mentalism, all at the same time. So that's those ones. The next one is the principle of polarity. And this is a really tough one for people, especially if we've, in the West, where we've come through a very dualistic spiritual paradigm, where we have this obsession with good and evil, with black and white. You know, white's good, black's bad. We only want the good, we don't want the bad. We're very dualistic, but there is no principle of dualism in the Hermetic principles. There's only the principle of polarity, and that is where you have things that are similar in essence but different by degree. You have hot and cold, their temperatures. Hot can become cold and cold can become hot depending on what you do. You can boil cold water to make it hot, so it can become, one can become the other with the principle of polarity. Night becomes day, day becomes night. The seasons of the year meld in, swap. You have summer goes through autumn, becomes winter, becomes spring, becomes summer. There's the idea of polarity is that you've got these two opposites, but they're actually similar in essence, and they can be transformed into each other when you know how to do that, which again, bringing it back to magic, you can transform a situation into another situation by simply understanding the essence of what it is that you're working with and transforming it into its other essence, like transforming night into day. Then there's the principle of rhythm. And rhythm is one I had trouble with. Think of a pendulum. When a pendulum swings, it can swing from one extreme right over to the other extreme, or it can just do a nice little easy swing. What often happens in our lives, particularly if we tend to be very dramatic people and have dramatic lives, is the pendulum will often swing to those big extremes, right? And so we get carried away with the swing. We're having a really, really good time, and then it swings back the opposite direction. And you can see the principle of rhythm in the rhythm of the cycles of the earth through the seasons. You know, you've got the cold of winter, and then it moves back into the center with your in-between seasons like autumn and spring, and then starts to go to the real heat of summer. Then it goes back down again, and then you end up back in the cold of winter, and you have this pendulum swinging from one extreme to the other. That's a good example of the principle of rhythm. A way to work with the principle of rhythm is the inner work. When you're doing meditation and you're doing work on yourself, you're trying to bring yourself into balance and into an equilibrium so that you're not getting caught up in those big swings, those big emotional swings of your life. So as a witch or as a magician, it's about controlling yourself as much as it is about controlling the world around you. And so that you're not constantly in those extreme mental states all the time, bringing yourself down to a nice balance so that your pendulum, most of the time, will just be nice and steady in the middle. Okay, because you know if it goes to an extreme in one end emotionally, you can have a big opposite effect when it swings back in the other direction, and that's not fun. So it's aiming for that nice balance in between. After the principle of rhythm, there is the principle of cause and effect. So every effect has a cause, and every cause has an effect. So this means that anything that you set in motion will have an outcome. And it's understanding the possibilities of that outcome. So if you want something to happen, you need to do something to make it happen, because there has to be a cause in order to have an effect. So that's about taking action. It's about when you do your spell work, that you take action on the spell work. So if the spell's bringing you opportunities, if it's bringing you offers, if it's bringing you creative ideas, if it's bringing you some intuitive directions to follow up on, it's about taking that and doing something with it. And understanding that everything that you do, everything that you project out into the world emotionally is going to have an effect. And if the universe is a feedback loop, which from a quantum perspective they're finding it is, then that means that what you're sending out into the world is going to mirror itself back at you as well. So that's something to think about when you are projecting things out into the world. Do you want this to come back at you and show itself back at you again? So they're things to think about with cause and effect. And lastly, the seventh principle is the principle of gender, which is simply to do with the two forces, the yin and yang, from the Taoists, the masculine and the feminine, coming together to create a third. And this essence of gender, this principle of gender, is in everything. It doesn't matter what the physical gender is of a being, creature, human, whether it's human or animal. The principle of gender, the masculine and the feminine, are always present in life, the universe, and everything. So there are 7 Hermetic principles, and that's it's important to get your head around them, to understand how they affect your life and your magic, because they are really important for creating magic. And again, if you are interested, I know I say this at the end of every video, if you really do want to walk the Wiccan or witch path, I am an eclectic witch, and I do teach Wicca and witchcraft because I know so many people are struggling out there on their own, trying to work through the books, trying to figure out what to do next, where to start. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? I don't know what I'm doing. And honestly, books are great, but books don't really teach. People do. And if you really do want to learn with me and be part of a group, then check out the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy training. The link to it is in the bottom of this video. And if you have any questions about it, you can email me, because that link is also at the bottom of this video. Or and click on and join my Facebook page, because that's where I also do Facebook Lives once a week as well. So if you like this video, hit the like button. Don't forget to share it with your friends, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Blessed be.